I was in tears talking to his son.
You stated, I do not take responsibility for the offense.
I still love my family.
Okay.
4 years of delays, a family torn apart, and a grandfather who still won't say what he did. Let's see how this ends.
Go ahead. State.
Yeah, I would like to open, Judge, focuses on the girls. This indictment started in August of 2021, but it detailed conduct whenever they were so young they can hardly remember details.
It started when? You said 21?
The indictment was returned on August 25th, 2021, and it took till December 17th, 2025 for any acknowledgement about the wrongdoing in this matter. I mean, all kinds of things can be said, but this family is so frustrated with how long it took to get to a point where this man would stand before somebody and accept responsibility for his act. The manner in which they detail the procedural history on this, I find offensive.
Defense called it tickling. Prosecutor just hit back. One kid said it happened over 100 times. That's not an accident. That's a pattern.
They claim it's a one-time incident and really just try to minimize what's happened here. There's several incorrect statements within the motion suggesting to the court that you can only sentence him to 8 years when our cap is 10 years. They do state in their motion that in order for the court to grant probation in this matter, that there has to be a finding that it's in the best interest of the children, and not one single argument is suggested as how it could possibly be in their best interest. Then they attach countless numbers of letters from friends and family of Mr. Tyler that sans one letter from an attorney says he's not familiar with the specific facts surrounding the incident. Nobody acknowledges these children and what they went through. It's all about Mr. Tyler. The detail within the PSI talks about the frequency, and specifically one child talks about how this happened over 100 times. And I wait to hear how we have any true acceptance of responsibility when we look at page 2, where, quote, the defendant further stated, "No, I do not take responsibility for this offense." Basically minimizing, again, talking about how he just tickled them. That he is an elderly Vietnam War veteran. However, the defendant is denied full responsibility for this offense and minimizes his conduct. The defendant presents a significant risk to minor children due to multiple familial victims over an extended period, intrafamilial access and position of trust, repeated sexual contact, including groping. And we knew that they would come in here and make a presentation for probation. I mean, what other option do they really have?
He wrote, remorseful unprompted? Cute. But real remorse doesn't take 4 years, and a plea deal to show up.
But it's not in their best interest. And in our opinion, it does not do justice to what...
I think Mr. Tyler has really struggled to come to grips with what he has done and what the impact that it's had on his family, it essentially has torn his family in half. And he recognizes that. One of the things I would point out that was not included in the pre-sentence report, Judge, was in his pre-sentence interview paperwork. It's flagged right there at the top.
Do you have a copy of this?
No, sir.
I can give him a copy, Judge.
Yeah.
It's just one word, Judge. It's asked, how does he feel about the crimes he's committed? And he says, remorseful. And he wrote that unprompted. He wrote that without talking to the probation officer or anything else. But my concern is, and I'm not being critical of probation, they have a very difficult job in doing these interviews and coming up with these assessments. But it's frustrating to me that that is the word that he used, and yet that word was not included at all in the pre-sentence report.
Nothing that's been said about that. I too read every one of those letters that were attached about this man, and I walk away with it with a different opinion. He has groomed all those people, just like he went through the grooming process to do this with these children. It is his conduct that we are here talking about. We don't excuse people's behavior because one day they were great and the next day they murder somebody. I use that analogy because it is always conduct that there's a division in this family. I was in tears talking to his son this morning about what he has to do with the fact that he can't even talk to his dad anymore. This grandfather has forever changed those children. Forever. And their frustration at the fact that it took so many trial dockets, so many times that this thing got reset, for him to come along and finally accept some responsibility. It's like I said, it's a horrible journey that really none of these folks should have ever experienced. But here we are. Here we are where Mr. Tyler is asking for probation. One thing of note, Judge, is throughout all the numerous trial dockets that we've had, there was one witness that stuck with me as to why it is that he was so willing to come and testify. And that was Jeremy Bradshaw. That was the pastor over where Mr. Tyler went to church. And it was at that church that everything came out and it was told. And there was a confrontation between Mr. Bradshaw and Mr. Tyler that led to his admissions. But even then, it was only partial because of the shame that went on, because so many people believe all those things that are detailed in the letter. But this man, who now lives in Nebraska and has been living from such a great distance, has been willing to come down and testify at every setting. And I repeat that because I lost count at the number of times I had to marshal up, or other lawyers marshaled up witnesses to come to court and get this case tried. But that stands out. It makes sense that others that are so personally involved would do it, but it really underscores the true character of not only the witness, but the reality that the shamefaced situation that was there when a church member comes forward to talk about in detail what he was doing with his grandchildren. Two strong young ladies have stood forth, and they are asking Your Honor to assess a punishment of 10 years, and I join in their request.
All right. Mr. Tyler, anything you want to add at this time?
I take responsibility for my actions, Your Honor.
What did you do that you're responsible for?
I love my kids, my grandkids.
That's not a crime, sir. What did you do that caused you to be here looking at prison time and being indicted?
Watch this. Judge caught him in a lie under oath, said tickling to the shrink, but pleaded guilty to abuse. Which story is it, sir?
Because here's the problem. I'm looking at this pre-sentence report here, and during the pre-sentence investigation, you stated, I do not take responsibility for the offense. I tickled the male grandchildren, and the female grandchildren wanted to be tickled too. It was just grandchildren. That's what you said you're responsible for. How does that work with you pleading guilty to me under oath, stating you committed these offenses and you swore to God that was true? This is a completely different story. Which is the truth?
I,
Do you accept responsibility or
yes,
not?
I do. I respect responsibility for my actions.
Which were what?
What the court indicated, Your Honor.
Abusing the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, anything else you would like to add, sir? Can you explain why?
No, Your Honor.
No? No. The court has had its experience in law. I've been a lawyer for 40 years, over 40 years, and I've handled and been involved in the middle of the worst capital murder case maybe in the United States' history with James Byrd. And that haunts me to this day, dealing with what happened there. But no less painful to deal with is the harm to children. I have 2 children. I have 3 grandchildren. And I can't imagine harming them in any way. I can't even imagine that. I think that's maybe the worst thing that could be imaginable. But what happens here in this situation that I'm reading, sir? And I don't see any history of wrongdoing here until this comes about. And there's nothing that this court is shown here in this pre-sentence report that has some kind of legal reason that is defensible. This shows nothing but you had a choice to make, and you made a conscious choice to abuse the grandchildren. And dealing with murders and the harm to children, this court, I don't know how you can really weigh those two because it's apples and oranges. But I can tell you that the greatest blessing that our Creator gave us with children is the fact that we can enjoy their innocence. And when that is taken away, as I read this court finds it hard to believe a more harmful event can occur. What is the price for the loss of innocence of a child? You can't place a figure on it because it's forever. And you just hope that they can rebound.
What is the price for innocence? Judge just asked a question that doesn't have a dollar sign. The answer's coming.
Somehow and live their life without those haunting memories of their grandfather abusing them, which lasts forever. What kind of punishment is fair for a child that is harmed forever? It seems like it should be severe. And I just, family, the special. And I'm looking over there and I see some to the left and some to the right, and then there's a vacant middle. There's a family separated. So this is a multi-dimensional harm that I hope somehow the family, because families, we didn't get to choose them. Our Creator gave them. Our Creator made the master plan of how our family would be put together. Not, we don't get to choose. It's our Creator. I know there's a good purpose for all that. But this hopefully will be somehow resolved for them. And for you, what's difficult is for an 81-year-old person to be sentenced for such a serious crime. That works against all of us feeling that people who are elderly, we've got to be very careful of punishment.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in this report that shows that you had a disability or infirmity or mental illness that caused that prevented you from making decisions that you elected to make. And those choices have consequences, no matter what our age.
Can I say something?
Sure. This is an important time.
Regardless of what the outcome of this is, I still love my family, my grandchildren. That will never change.
But those are words.
Yes, they're my feelings.
You didn't act out of love in harming those children. And actions speak far more louder than words. I sense you deeply regret what has happened. I just wished I could have been next to you before you made that choice, to whisper in your ear, do not make this choice. This is a forever mistake that will harm the people you claim you love.
Yes, right.
Forever. No, this is one of those where people say, heads I lose, tails they win. It's a no-win situation for anyone.
Yes.
But that's why the law came into being, so that we can resolve problems and mistakes. This is obviously a terrible, tragic mistake that all of us think of as a nightmare. In each of these cases, sir, if nothing further, each of these cases, these second-degree felonies of indecency with a child by sexual contact, you have pleaded guilty voluntarily. You are mentally competent to do so. You understand and appreciate the consequences of pleading guilty. There's sufficient evidence supporting your guilty plea from State's Exhibit 1, admitted in each of these cases, to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's my clear understanding from the state's presentation, correct me if I'm wrong, that the victims and their families have requested that the defendant be punished.
Yes, sir.
In this case,
It is their specific request for the 10-year sentence, Judge.
right, victims have a voice with this court. They always have. Sometimes their voice is made for reasons of emotion, and sometimes it's made because of not only it's fair, but it has broken the hearts. And once again, because the court has not seen anything in this report that shows that Mr. Tyler was incompetent to act responsibly, I find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in each of these cases. I am following these agreements. And you are hereby sentenced to confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve a term of 10 years on each of these cases, which shall run concurrently. It's a terrible set of circumstances. And
10 years. At 81, that's life. But notice what the judge said? He wishes he could have whispered "don't" before it happened. Too late for whispers.
again, the court is basing its decision on what do we value the innocence of children on. And in the United States of America, it's of highest interest. I just wish I had the power to change history, but we move forward. And this decision is what the court deems as justice under these circumstances. Anything else to add?